Hey, what's going on? This is part 3 of Rabbit Proof Fence. In 2009, the traditional owners of Gelueku signed the government 40-year lease in exchange for 50 houses. Traditional, they took the word traditional and turned it into their own meaning, but they're not the traditional owners of Gelueku.
Serious about housing, new houses, housing, severe overcrowding, serious
This number was later reduced to 15 houses.
about people who are the most vulnerable.
Children deserve and need us to implement things today.
But we shouldn't have to trade off citizenship rights for our land. We don't expect that to happen within mainstream society, so they could get housing, so they could get an upgrade of education facilities, upgrade of health facilities. We do have differential treatment, and it's an issue that is something that has to be tackled.
In August 2009, the Australian government's behaviour attracted the attention of the United Nations.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Indigenous Rights has spent the past 11 days touring the Territory's Aboriginal communities. Today, James Anaya delivered his assessment.
These measures overtly discriminate against Aboriginal peoples, infringe their right of self-determination, and stigmatize already stigmatized communities. The emergency response is incompatible with Australia's obligations.
Australia, in fact, has legal obligations in relation to protecting the rights of the Aboriginal people. The adoption of the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples means that there is now a legitimate platform on which governments can be challenged about their decisions.
In April 2009, the government signed the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, one of the last 3 countries to do so.
What we need to know now is what is the government going to do to implement the rights that are contained in that declaration. What is the government doing to recognise self-government? What is the government doing to recognise Indigenous leadership that is chosen by our people themselves, not appointed by government? What is the government doing to recognise that our own organisations are valid organisations and should be responsible for decision-making and delivery of programs and services?
However, the government has since breached most of the articles in the Declaration. Teaching in Indigenous languages is being phased out of schools in the Northern Territory, and community councils have been replaced by government-controlled bureaucracy.
So not only are they taking away our ownership and control of those lands, but they're also taking away our capacity to govern our communities.
In the midst of all this, Aboriginal voices continue to be silenced by legislation that circumvents the Racial Discrimination Act.
The name of your people is extinct. Will still existing, see? But the name itself will go extinct. I have a body, and then I have a shadow. That shadow is my culture, and it speaks to me. If my shadow goes away, I'm sad. If they're taking away our permits, taking away our rights, it's like taking my shadow away. And the government are trying to eat our shadow, but they can't.
Another wave of genocide against us again. So what we are saying, we're saying that first government and
from us.
I don't think there's any doubt that Australia has the poorest policies and position in relation to the rights of Indigenous peoples. Australia is probably the only modern government to deliberately take an action to say, we will discriminate against your rights as human beings, we will create you as being lesser human beings than all the other people living in Australia.
The government has just come in and they really come to disempower Yolngu people because they would rather see Yolngu people not taking over our own affairs, so they can come and mine on their land.
Fuck them.
We believe that our homeland is very rich of mineral inside. The government is after the mineral in our land. Australia holds a vast proportion of the world's mineral resources, including 40% of the world's uranium. Many of these deposits are found in the Northern Territory, where mining is the region's largest industry. 53% of the land in the Northern Territory falls under Aboriginal control which was taken away under the Northern Territory intervention.
The government is just hungry for more money. They want to dig more land. They're just finding an excuse to move our family out of our country, our own country, our birthright, where our initiation grounds are, and move us here.
Under the new Homelands policy, Aboriginal people will be forced off their traditional lands and into the main towns, further exposing their country to mineral exploitation.
What clearly the government direction and the government policy is to end our identity as peoples, to end our association with our territories. This ensures that the governments have control and ownership over all resources in Australia and that there will be no opposition.
So our people are still confused. Our minds are not resting. Our mind is like a computer, because you are coming and putting that little chips inside into our mind and saying, go, 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 until you die, and then I'll take the land.
Australia's violation of the human rights of its Indigenous people is legitimised by its legal system. Australia remains the only Western democracy without a Bill of Rights, and its constitution does not have any provisions that protect the human rights of all Australians.
This time of the century, we're sick and tired now, I'm getting old now. We need to change the Constitution of Australia. And now.
The Constitution has never recognised the rights of Indigenous people. It was written at a time when Indigenous people were considered to be a dying race and an inferior race. It was also a constitution that was designed to ensure that Parliament had the power to make racially discriminatory laws. It still has that legacy today.
Elsewhere, of course, it was different. It had been different in North America, and it was different when the British settled New Zealand and when they settled most places in the Pacific. That is, they recognised that the native people did own the land, and so settlement was carried out by signing treaties.
There's no such treaty in this country. No such treaty. The first people who came here, they said, Australia is a country without a people that couldn't recognize that there were people, they were human beings. They were the first people of this country.
The Latin term terra nullius, meaning empty land, was used by the British to justify taking over the country without any negotiation.
see is these white British people running in their country, raising flags and shit. Building shit. It's crazy. It's just showing you like how they just came in and started putting businesses.
Were seen as savages, without any form of governance worthy enough to be recognised as the sovereign owners of the land. Therefore, no treaty was necessary.
Where we are standing now, as far as that camera can see, still a sovereign land. It belongs to somebody. Or the land does own someone. The land does own someone. It's a younger person.
Australia remains the only Commonwealth country not to have signed a treaty with its Indigenous people.
Until the issue of a treaty is looked at and solved, till that negotiated settlement has occurred, that the question of legitimacy is always going to be hanging over Australia. So they perhaps need a treaty as much as Aboriginal people do. And for Aboriginal people, it will be a mechanism to be able to get legal recognition of many of the things that we've lost, the protection of our languages, our culture, our history, rights to education, health and housing, rights to dignity, all of those sorts of things.
There are more things to be done. Sovereignty needs to be a challenge. The changing of the way of dialogue. The things have to be done through negotiation. But you need to be very, very careful that you talk to the right people. And the right people are the born leaders, not the leaders that you raised them. You have shaped them and say you are the boss. Right. It's not my man, it's your man.
Right.
We young people have been waiting patiently for a long, long time to sit down and talk about our issues, sort out our issues. You tell us what we're doing wrong, and we'll tell you what you are doing wrong. And we'll meet in the middle, okay, and somehow create a better partnership than what it is now. We can build Australia together. Don't think that you people can only build Australia. We can build. We will be part of it if our right is recognized. If we are being put into the same level, not as a second-class citizen in this country.
We have an opportunity for understanding of the oldest culture in the world, oldest living culture in the world, and we seem uninterested, as if it has nothing to offer us. It's an opportunity that no one else in the world really has, except us in Australia.
We have to show other people who are coming in, especially non-Yolngu, who are ignorant of the existing culture that is here, that existed before the flag.